Hi there, and welcome back to Easy English Listening, the channel where we talk about important life topics while improving your English step by step, word by word. I'm really happy you're here with me today because we're going to talk about something that everyone experiences at some point in life: anger. Let me begin with a personal story. A few months ago, I had a very long and stressful day. I was tired, I had too much work left to finish, and I was also hungry. Not a good mix, right? Then suddenly, one of my friends called me. Instead of just talking normally, they started complaining about something I had forgotten to do. At that moment, I could feel my heart beating faster. My voice started getting louder. Before I knew it, I said something I didn't really mean. And right after that, I felt regret. Has this ever happened to you? You don't want to hurt anyone, you're not a bad person, but in that quick moment, you snap. That's the power of anger. It can rise up so quickly that we don't even realize it's coming. Anger is a universal emotion. No matter where you live, how old you are, or what language you speak, everybody feels angry sometimes. But here's the problem. Most of us were never taught how to deal with it in a healthy way. Some people try to hide their anger. They push it deep inside and pretend nothing is wrong. But later, it can hurt them emotionally or even physically. Others do the opposite. They express anger in harmful ways, shouting at loved ones, arguing at work, or breaking relationships. The truth is, anger itself isn't always bad. Sometimes anger is a signal. It shows us that something important in our life isn't working well. Sometimes it's the first step to making positive changes. But for that to happen, we need to understand our anger, manage it, and even learn from it. In today's episode, we're not here to judge ourselves for feeling angry. Anger is normal. Instead, we're here to look at it calmly and honestly. We're going to talk about what anger really is, why we feel it, what happens when we ignore it, and how to handle it in healthy, respectful ways. This is not only about avoiding fights or arguments. It's about becoming more aware of ourselves, our thoughts, our feelings, and our reactions. When we do that, we can live with more peace, more control, and better communication with the people around us. So, before we continue, I want to ask you something. You don't have to say it out loud. Just think quietly for a moment. Backhand index pointing right, when was the last time you felt angry? Backhand index pointing right, what triggered that anger? Backhand index pointing right, and most importantly, how did you respond? If you're listening to this podcast, it shows that you want to grow. You're not only improving your English, but also your mindset and your emotional intelligence. That's something to feel proud of. Learning how to manage anger is not simple. It takes practice, patience, and self-awareness. But it is also one of the most valuable life skills you can learn. So, take a deep breath. Relax. Let's go step by step through this topic together. By the end of this episode, you'll not only learn useful English words and expressions, but you'll also gain new tools to understand yourself better. Are you ready? Let's begin. What is anger really? Now that we've started this conversation, let's ask a big but simple question. What is anger? At first, the answer might seem easy. We all know what it feels like to be angry. Your body becomes tense. Your voice gets louder. Your heartbeat speeds up. Your face may even feel hot. But even though the feeling is familiar, we don't always stop to really think about what anger is. At its core, anger is a normal human emotion. It's a natural reaction that usually shows up when we believe something is wrong, unfair, or threatening. In other words, anger is our mind and body's way of telling us something isn't right here. Maybe someone lied to you. Maybe someone didn't respect your time. Or maybe you failed at something you worked really hard on. In those moments, your brain senses a kind of danger. Not always physical danger, like being attacked, but emotional danger, like being hurt, disrespected, or disappointed. And your brain reacts. That reaction is anger. It's your mind's way of saying, something's wrong here. Pay attention. Now, just like happiness or sadness, anger itself is not a bad thing. It's simply an emotion. And emotions are natural. They help us notice what's happening inside us and around us. So the real problem is not feeling angry. The problem is what we do with that anger. Some people explode. They yell, insult, or hurt others, and this damages relationships. Some people keep it inside, pushing it down until it makes them feel heavy, sick, or even depressed. Others try to act like nothing's wrong, pretending the anger doesn't exist. But none of these reactions really solve the problem in the long run. Here's something interesting. Anger is not always the same. There are actually different types of anger. Sometimes, anger feels like a sudden fire. It comes quickly and burns hot. Maybe you shout, maybe you cry, maybe you slam a door. And then, just as quickly, it's gone. This is called short burst anger. It usually happens in surprising moments, like when someone cuts you off in traffic or when you hear something rude or unfair. The feeling is intense, but it doesn't always last long. Other times, anger is much quieter, but it stays with you for a long time, days, weeks, even months. You don't scream, but you carry the feeling deep inside, like a heavy bag you never put down. This kind of anger is called resentment. Resentment often grows slowly. Maybe someone keeps treating you badly. Maybe you never said what you truly felt. Instead of fading away, the anger lingers. And resentment can be dangerous because it slowly changes the way you think and act sometimes, without you even realizing it. It's like a slow poison. It eats away at your peace of mind. Now, let's look at what happens inside the body when we get angry. Anger triggers something called the fight or flight response. This is an ancient survival system built into the brain. Thousands of years ago, when humans faced real dangers, like wild animals, the fight or flight response helped them survive. When your brain senses a threat, it prepares your body for action. Your muscles tighten. Your breathing changes. Your heart beats faster. You're ready to either fight the danger or run away from it. The interesting thing is that today, most of our dangers are not physical. They're emotional, stress at work, problems in relationships, or fear of failure. But the body reacts the same way as if we were facing a wild animal. That's why anger sometimes feels so strong, so overwhelming. Our brain is sending out emergency signals, even when there's no real physical danger. Now, let's ask an important question. Is anger always bad? At first, many people will say yes. Anger feels uncomfortable. It makes us argue. It creates problems. But if we look more closely, anger actually has a purpose. Sometimes, anger is a sign that we care deeply about something. It can give us the energy to speak up, to set boundaries, or to make changes. For example, if someone treats you unfairly and you feel angry, that anger might be the push you need to say, "Stop. This isn't okay." In that way, anger protects your self-respect. Anger can also show us our deepest values. If you get angry when you see injustice, dishonesty, or cruelty, it means those values, justice, honesty, kindness, are very important to you. But here's the key: anger is not meant to control us. It's meant to guide us. Think of anger like a warning light in your car. When the light comes on, it doesn't mean the car is broken forever. It just means something needs attention. If you ignore that light, the problem can get worse. But if you stop, look at it, and fix the issue, then your car keeps running smoothly. Anger works the same way. It's a signal. If we listen to it, understand it, and respond wisely, it can actually help us. But if we let it control us, it can cause damage to ourselves and to others. So today, I want to encourage you to see anger differently. Not as something bad. Not as something shameful. But simply as something human. We all feel anger. The difference is not whether we feel it. The difference is in what we do with it. Do we use anger as a tool, or do we let it control us? That's the key. In the next part of this episode, we're going to explore what anger management really means. After that, we'll take a closer look at where anger comes from, what triggers it, what sets it off, and why one person might get very upset while another person in the same situation doesn't feel bothered at all. There's a lot to discover here because it's all connected to how we see the world and how we see ourselves. But before we move forward, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect. Backhand index pointing right. What does your anger usually look like? Backhand index pointing right. Do you explode quickly, like a fire that burns hot and fast? Backhand index pointing right, or do you hold your anger inside and carry it silently? Backhand index pointing right. How does your body feel when anger rises? Tight chest, racing heartbeat, shaky hands? The more you understand your own patterns of anger, the easier it becomes to take back control. And let me say this, you're doing great. You're not just improving your English, you're also growing as a person. Remember, understanding anger is not about being perfect. It's about being aware, honest, and open to growth. What is anger management? Now let's talk about something very important, anger management. You've probably heard this phrase before, but what does it actually mean? Some people think anger management means never getting angry. But that's not true. In fact, it's impossible and not even healthy. Like we said earlier, anger is natural. It's part of being human. The real goal of anger management is simple: to recognize your anger, to understand it, and to express it in a healthy way. It's about staying in control, not letting anger control your words, your actions, or your life. Here's one way to think about it. Anger is like fire. A small fire in the right place can be helpful. It can give us warmth, light, and energy. But if that fire grows too big, or if it gets out of control, it can destroy everything around it. Anger management is the skill of keeping that fire at the right level. It helps you respond instead of react. It gives you tools to pause, to think, and to choose your next action carefully, so you don't end up saying or doing something you'll regret later. Step 1. Notice the signs. One of the first steps in anger management is to notice the early signs. Everyone has physical signals when anger starts to rise. For some people, their heart beats faster. For others, their hands start to shake, their face feels hot, or their voice suddenly gets louder. If you can recognize these signs early, you have a chance to stop yourself before the anger grows too strong. You can take a slow, deep breath. You can step outside. You can give yourself a short break. Even a few seconds of pause can make a big difference. Step 2. Communicate better. Another big part of anger management is learning how to communicate clearly and calmly. Many times, we feel angry because we don't feel understood. But yelling or blaming others usually doesn't fix the problem, it only makes things worse. That's why it's important to practice something called assertive communication. Assertive means you're not passive, silent, and afraid, and you're not aggressive, loud, and hurtful. Instead, you're confident, respectful, and clear. For example, instead of shouting, "You never listen to me," you could say calmly, "I feel frustrated when I don't feel heard." It's a small change, but it makes a big difference. When you express your feelings this way, people are much more likely to listen and respond positively. Step 3. Focus on solutions. Anger management also means focusing on solutions, not just the emotion itself. If something makes you angry again and again, ask yourself, backhand index pointing right, what can I do about this? Sometimes, you can change the situation directly. Other times, you can't, but you can change how you look at it, how you think about it, and how you respond to it. That shift in perspective is powerful. It gives you back your control. Sparkles. So, anger management is not about erasing anger. It's about understanding, guiding, and using it wisely. When you do that, anger can actually become a teacher, helping you grow stronger, calmer, and more connected to others. This is where skills like stress management, positive thinking, and self-awareness become really helpful. Some people also use tools like journaling, meditation, or talking with a therapist to understand their anger more deeply. These methods can help you see where your anger really comes from, maybe from old experiences, painful memories, or negative beliefs you've been carrying for years. When you start to see those hidden roots, it becomes easier to let go of the pain behind them. The more you understand yourself, the easier it is to manage your emotions. So, anger management isn't just about staying calm. It's about growing emotionally, becoming stronger on the inside, and building healthier, better relationships with others. And remember, anger management is a skill. Like any skill, it takes time and practice. You won't get it right every time. But with patience, awareness, and consistency, you'll start to notice real changes in the way you react, in how you communicate, and even in how you feel inside. Why do we get angry? In the last part, we talked about what anger really is. We said it's a normal emotion, and we looked at the different ways it can show up. But now, let's go deeper and ask an important question. Why do we get angry in the first place? What are the real reasons behind our anger? The truth is, the answer is not always simple. Many times we think we're angry because of one thing, but if we look closer, we see that something else is happening underneath. 1. Stress. One of the most common reasons for anger is stress. When we're tired, overworked, or feel like we can't handle everything in our lives, even small problems can feel huge. Imagine this. You've had a long day at work. Your boss gave you more tasks than you can finish. You skipped lunch. Now you're stuck in traffic. Then, suddenly, a car cuts in front of you without using a signal. Boom, you explode. You yell, you hit the horn, maybe you even say something you don't really mean. But if you think about it, you're not just angry about the car. Deep down, you're angry because you feel overwhelmed. The car was just the last straw, the final little thing that pushed you over the edge. 2. Fear. Another big trigger is fear. This might surprise you, but many times anger is actually hiding fear underneath. For example, imagine someone you love is late coming home and they don't call you. At first, you feel worried and afraid. But when they finally walk through the door, what do you say? You don't say, "I was scared something happened to you." Instead, you say, "Why didn't you call me?" That anger is really covering up fear. It feels easier to show anger than to admit we're scared. And this happens a lot, especially in close relationships. 3. Insecurity. Another common reason is insecurity. When we don't feel confident in ourselves, we often react strongly to things that make us feel small, weak, or not good enough. For example, if someone criticizes your work or even makes fun of your accent, you might feel angry right away. But the real feeling underneath is insecurity. Maybe you're worried that what they said is true. That fear then turns into frustration and anger. This is why it's so important to look at what we believe about ourselves. If we don't feel strong inside, it's easy to get angry on the outside. 4. Injustice. Of course, there's also unfair treatment, or what we might call injustice. This one is very natural. When someone lies to us, treats us badly, or disrespects us, anger is often the normal response. It's our mind's way of saying, "This is not fair. This is not right." Sparkles. So, as you can see, anger usually has layers. On the surface, we see the explosion. But underneath, it might be stress, fear, insecurity, or a sense of injustice. When we start to understand these hidden causes, we can handle our anger in much healthier ways. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, or passed over for a job you worked hard for and truly deserved, then you already know what that kind of anger feels like. It burns deep inside. This type of anger often comes from a strong sense of justice, a belief in what's right and what's wrong. So, when people break those rules or treat us unfairly, we naturally feel upset. But unfair treatment isn't the only cause of anger. Let's not forget about setbacks. A setback is when something delays your progress or makes you feel like you're moving backward instead of forward. Backhand index pointing right, maybe you studied hard for a test but still failed. Backhand index pointing right, or maybe you prepared really well for a job interview but you didn't get the job. In those moments, you first feel disappointed. But if that feeling grows stronger, it often turns into anger at the situation, at other people, or even at yourself. That's because setbacks create frustration, and frustration is very closely connected to anger. Now here's something interesting. What makes one person angry might not bother another person at all. Why? Because of personal differences and cultural differences. For example, in some cultures, interrupting someone while they're speaking is considered extremely rude. It can make people very angry. But in other cultures, people interrupt each other all the time, and it's seen as normal. It's just part of the conversation. The same is true with other behaviors, body language, tone of voice, or even being late to a meeting. What feels disrespectful to one person might not even register to someone else. Even within the same culture, people react differently because of their life experiences. Backhand index pointing right, maybe someone grew up in a home where they were blamed unfairly all the time. As an adult, that person might get angry very quickly if they even feel like they're being blamed, even if it isn't really happening. Backhand index pointing right, another person might have been taught from childhood to stay quiet, to never show their emotions. That person may keep their anger inside for years, until one day it finally bursts out in a big explosion. Let me give you a quick example that many of us can relate to. Imagine you're having a conversation with someone. You're trying to share your opinion, but before you can finish, they interrupt you. Not just once, but again and again. How would you feel? Annoyed? Disrespected? Angry? For many people, this is a major trigger, especially if they already feel like their voice isn't heard in other parts of life. And this is why it's so important to understand your own triggers, the things that push your emotional buttons. So, take a moment and ask yourself, backhand index pointing right, what usually makes me angry? Backhand index pointing right, is it when people don't listen to me? Backhand index pointing right, is it when something feels unfair? Backhand index pointing right, is it when I'm under too much pressure? Backhand index pointing right, or is it connected to my past experiences and my identity? The clearer you are about your triggers, the better you'll be at handling them. When you recognize a trigger, you can pause, take a breath, and choose how to respond instead of just exploding without thinking. This is the first step toward real emotional strength and better communication. Remember this. Anger itself is not the enemy. But when we don't understand where it's coming from, it becomes much harder to control. In the next part of the episode, we'll explore the difference between healthy anger and unhealthy anger. For now, just hold on to this thought. Every emotion has a story. And behind your anger, there is always something more. So, be curious. Be kind to yourself. And keep learning. Sparkles next up, healthy versus unhealthy anger. The difference between healthy and unhealthy anger. Yes, that's right, not all anger is bad. Anger itself is a natural human emotion, just like sadness, joy, or fear. It's part of being human. In fact, anger can actually be helpful when we understand it and express it in a healthy way. The real problem is not the anger itself. It's what we do with it. So, what does healthy anger look like? Healthy anger is when you feel upset, but you still have control over your actions. Instead of exploding or hurting others, you choose how to respond. For example, you might say, backhand index pointing right, I feel upset when I'm interrupted. Backhand index pointing right, or I need a short break right now. I'm starting to feel frustrated. This kind of response is honest, but also respectful. It helps others understand your feelings and your boundaries without turning the situation into a big fight. Now, let's talk about unhealthy anger. Unhealthy anger is when the emotion takes control of you. Instead of you managing your anger manages you. This can show up in two main ways: blowing up, yelling, saying hurtful things, or even becoming aggressive. Shutting down, keeping everything inside, pretending you're fine, but secretly holding on to bitterness for hours or even days. In both cases, you're not really managing the emotion. You're either letting it explode in a harmful way or burying it until it turns into resentment. Sometimes unhealthy anger is connected to deeper issues, like perfectionism or a need for control. Backhand index pointing right, maybe things didn't go the way you planned, and that makes you feel like you failed. Backhand index pointing right, or maybe someone acted differently than you expected, and you feel disrespected. When we expect everything to be perfect or try to control every detail, it becomes very easy to get angry over even small problems. Think about it. Have you ever lost your cool over something minor, only to realize later that the real reason was stress or pressure building up inside you? Another type of unhealthy anger is impulsive anger, reacting too quickly without thinking. One sharp word, one angry text message, one big outburst. That's all it takes to damage a friendship, hurt a relationship, or create regret. That's why people often use phrases like, bite your tongue, meaning stop yourself before saying something you'll regret. Take a step back, meaning give yourself space before reacting. Cool off, meaning calm down before you speak or act. These simple ideas remind us that sometimes the best thing we can do is pause. So, how do we actually keep our anger healthy? It comes down to awareness and a few simple strategies. Pause when you feel that emotional heat rising inside. Stop. Just breathe. Take a few slow, deep breaths. This helps calm the physical reaction in your body. Name the emotion. Ask yourself, what exactly am I feeling? Is it frustration? Fear? Embarrassment? Sometimes just naming the emotion reduces its power. Step outside yourself. Imagine watching yourself from the outside. If your friend was in this situation, what advice would you give them? Would you tell them to scream and break something? Or would you encourage them to step away, calm down, and talk later? Often, we know how to guide others, but we forget to guide ourselves. In the end, healthy anger is not about staying silent or pretending everything is fine. It's about being honest, respectful, and aware. You can feel angry and still be kind. You can experience strong emotions and still make thoughtful choices. So, the next time something really gets under your skin, try this. Backhand index pointing right, pause. Backhand index pointing right, breathe. Backhand index pointing right, name the feeling. Backhand index pointing right, and choose a better way to respond. Because anger management is not about being perfect. It's about practicing self-control, step by step, until it becomes a habit. Sparkles next, we'll talk about practical tools and techniques you can use in everyday life to manage anger effectively. The cost of uncontrolled anger. We've already talked about what anger is and what triggers it. Now, let's look at something very important. What happens when we don't manage anger well? Because, let's be honest, we've all had moments when we lost our cool. Maybe it happened in a meeting, during an argument, or while talking to someone we care about. In that moment, it feels like anger is in control, not us. And when anger takes the driver's seat, it often leads to damage. Sometimes that damage can be repaired. But other times, sadly, it leaves a mark we can't erase. Relationships. Let's start with relationships. Whether it's with your partner, your family, your friends, or your coworkers, when anger is left unchecked, it creates distance. Picture this. You yell at someone you love. The words come out sharp, maybe even cruel. You say things you didn't really mean, just because you were upset. And then comes the silence. That heavy, awkward silence afterwards. Maybe they walk away. Maybe you do, even if you apologize later, something has changed. Trust has been damaged. And trust is like paper. Once it's crumpled, you can try to smooth it out, but it will never be quite the same. Here's a question for you. Have you ever said something in anger that you later regretted? I know I have. Most people have. It's part of being human. But if it happens too often, the people around us begin to feel unsafe. They stop opening up. They avoid conversations. They may even start walking on eggshells, always afraid of saying the wrong thing. In the long run, uncontrolled anger pushes people away. And the sad part? Many times, all we really wanted was to feel heard or understood. Work and career. It's not just personal relationships. Anger can hurt our careers too. Think about a job interview or a team meeting. If you can't handle stress, feedback, or pressure without reacting emotionally, people notice. They may start to see you as difficult, unprofessional, or unpredictable. You could be amazing at your job, but if you're slamming doors, snapping at coworkers, or sending angry emails, people won't remember your skills. They'll remember how you made them feel. And let's face it, nobody wants to work with someone who seems constantly angry. Over time, this can lead to missed opportunities, isolation at work, and promotions passing you by. Because in today's world, emotional intelligence is just as important as technical skills. Health and well-being. And then there's the physical cost. Yes, anger affects your health in real, measurable ways. Every time you lose your temper, your body goes into fight or flight mode. Your heart beats faster. Your muscles tense. Your blood pressure rises. If this happens once in a while, your body can handle it. But when anger is constant, when you're always on edge, your body never fully relaxes. Over time, this can lead to serious problems. Headaches, trouble sleeping, high blood pressure, even higher risks of heart disease and stroke. In other words, uncontrolled anger doesn't just damage your relationships or your reputation, it can also damage your body. So, whether it's your personal life, your career, or your health, anger comes with a cost when it's left unmanaged. The good news? You don't have to pay that price. Because the moment you start noticing your patterns and practicing self-control, you begin to protect your relationships, your opportunities, and even your health. Sparkles, in the next part of this episode, we'll talk about practical tools and strategies you can start using right away to manage anger in a healthier way. Mindset shift. Anger as a messenger. So far, we've talked about the negative effects of uncontrolled anger, how it can hurt our relationships, our careers, and even our health. But now I want to introduce a different idea. Something that might surprise you. What if I told you that anger isn't always the enemy? That instead of trying to hide it, fight it, or push it away, we could actually learn something from it. You see, anger is not just noise. It's not just fire. It's also a message. It's your mind and body sending you a signal that something important is happening inside. Maybe a boundary has been crossed. Maybe you feel disrespected. Maybe something in your life is not working the way it should. When we begin to look at anger with curiosity and self-awareness, we can start to understand what it's trying to tell us. This is what I call a mindset shift. Your mindset is simply the way you think about something. And changing your mindset can completely change the way you deal with anger. Instead of thinking, I shouldn't feel this way, try asking, why do I feel this way? That small change in perspective opens the door to emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage your own emotions, and also to see and respect the emotions of others. A simple example. Think about a time when you got angry at someone for interrupting you, maybe during a conversation or in a meeting. On the surface, it seems like you were angry at the interruption itself. But if you dig deeper, the real message might be, I don't feel heard, or my opinion isn't being valued. Do you see the difference? The interruption is just the event. But the anger is pointing to something more important, your need to be respected and listened to. Anger as a guide. When you start seeing anger as a messenger instead of just an enemy, everything changes. It's no longer about fighting the feeling. It's about listening to it, understanding it, and then deciding how to respond. Like a warning light in your car, anger isn't there to ruin your day. It's there to say, hey, something needs attention. And if you pay attention, you can use that energy to set healthy boundaries, speak up for yourself, or make changes in your life that actually improve things. So the next time you feel anger rising, don't just label it as bad. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, what is this anger trying to tell me? What do I really need right now? How can I express this without causing harm? That's how anger shifts from being destructive to being constructive. From something that controls you to something that guides you. Sparkles in the next part of the episode will explore practical strategies for turning anger into action, how to use that energy in a way that helps you grow instead of pushing people away. Practical strategies to manage anger. Understanding your anger is a powerful first step. But now let's talk about something just as important, how to manage it when it shows up in real life. Because let's be honest, even if we know why we're angry, that doesn't always stop us. From snapping at someone, raising our voice, or saying something we'll later regret. That's why having simple, practical strategies can make a huge difference. 1. Breathing, your first line of defense. One of the most powerful tools, and also one of the simplest, is breathing. When we're angry, our body goes into what's called fight or flight mode. Our heart races. Our muscles tighten. Our mind starts spinning with negative thoughts. But when we slow down our breath, we send a different message to the brain. It's okay. I'm safe. A great method you can try is called box breathing. It's simple. Inhale for 4 seconds. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. Exhale for 4 seconds. Hold again for 4 seconds. That's one cycle. Do it 3 or 4 times, and you'll notice your body calming down almost immediately. It's like hitting a reset button for your nervous system. 2. Pause before you respond. Another simple strategy is to pause. It sounds easy, but it's incredibly powerful. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." And he was right. When you pause, even just for a few seconds, you give your thinking brain time to catch up with your emotional brain. That short delay can be the difference between reacting in anger and responding with wisdom. 3. Move your body. Anger creates energy. It's like fire in your system. If you don't release it, it builds up. That's why movement is such a helpful tool. Take a walk. Do some push-ups. Stretch. Even shaking out your hands can release tension. You're not running away from your anger. You're giving it a safe outlet. 4. Write it out. Sometimes, the best way to process anger is to put it on paper. Journaling lets you express all those thoughts without hurting anyone. You can even try writing an unsent letter. Write everything you want to say to the person or situation that upset you, but don't actually send it. Just the act of writing helps release the intensity. 5. Speak, don't attack. Finally, when it's time to talk about what made you angry, try assertive communication. That means expressing your feelings clearly, but without blame or aggression. Instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try, "I feel frustrated when I don't feel heard in our conversations." See the difference? One attacks, the other shares. And sharing invites understanding instead of defense. Sparkles, these are just a few tools you can keep in your anger management toolbox. Breathing, pausing, moving, writing, and speaking with clarity. The more you practice them, the easier they become, just like learning English or any other skill. Backhand index pointing out in the next part of this episode, we'll put it all together. I'll guide you through a step-by-step process you can follow the next time you feel anger rising. Practical anger management techniques continued. One of the most effective tools you can use right away is box breathing. Here's how it works. Breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Breathe out for 4 seconds. Hold again for 4 seconds. Just repeat this cycle a few times. You'll be amazed at how quickly it calms your nervous system. And this isn't just a relaxation trick. It's a real technique used by athletes, soldiers, and therapists to stay calm under pressure. Pause before you react. Another powerful strategy is the pause before react rule. It sounds simple, but it isn't always easy. The idea is to create a short space, just a few seconds, between your feelings and your reaction. For example, someone cuts you off in traffic. Instead of honking or yelling, take a breath. Ask yourself, is this worth my peace? Your partner forgets something important. Before snapping, pause and ask, what's really going on here? That tiny pause gives your self-control a chance to speak before your emotions take over. Journaling. Journaling is another excellent tool, especially if you often feel lingering anger or stress. Writing things down helps you notice patterns and understand your triggers. You might notice, for example, that you always get upset after long meetings. You feel irritable when you skip meals. You don't need to write a long diary entry every day, just a few lines about what you felt, what happened, what you wish you had done differently. Even this small habit can increase your self-awareness and help you respond more thoughtfully. Walking away. Sometimes, the best choice is simply to step away. And no, that doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, walking away can be a sign of strength. If you feel like you're about to explode, it's okay to say, I need a few minutes to cool down. Take a short walk, get some fresh air, or just move away from the situation. It's far better to return later with a calm, clear mind than to say something you'll regret in the heat of the moment. A real-life example. Let me share a story. A friend of mine works in a high-stress office. She used to get angry at small things. A colleague interrupting her. A client being rude. Even bad coffee in the break room. She started keeping a small notebook in her bag. Every time she felt upset, she wrote 1 or 2 lines about it. She said it helped her slow down, reflect, and even smile at how small some problems really were. She told me, it doesn't fix everything, but it gives me back my power, the power to choose how I respond. Progress, not perfection. That's the kind of control we're aiming for. Not perfection. Just progress. You won't get it right every time. You might still lose your cool or say something you regret. That's okay. What matters is that you keep trying and learning. These strategies aren't magic. They require consistency. Over time, these small habits build emotional strength. Think of it like training a muscle. Going to the gym once won't make you strong. But small, repeated efforts over time make a big difference. Managing anger is the same. Each time you pause instead of shouting, breathe instead of blaming, or reflect instead of reacting, you're training your emotional muscles. A simple step-by-step technique to manage anger. So, what's one thing you can try today? Maybe it's taking a few deep breaths during a stressful moment. Maybe it's jotting down a few thoughts in your journal tonight. Or maybe it's just noticing the moment you start to feel irritated and giving yourself permission to pause. Remember, the goal isn't to never feel anger again. That's impossible and, honestly, not even healthy. The goal is to respond to it in a healthier, wiser way. Step 1. Awareness. The first step is awareness. This means noticing when anger is starting to rise. Maybe your heart beats faster. Maybe your face feels hot. Maybe your voice starts getting louder. The earlier you catch these signals, the easier it is to manage your emotions before they get out of control. Step 2. Pause. Next is pause. This can be the hardest part, especially when emotions are strong. Even just one deep breath can give you the space you need to slow down. You don't have to fix the problem right away. You just need to slow down and give your mind a chance to think. Some teachings, like in Islam, suggest sitting down, washing your face, or moving away from the situation if possible. Small actions like these give your mind and body time to calm. Step 3. Name your feeling. Now, name your feeling. This might sound simple, but it's powerful. Instead of just saying, I'm angry, try to be more specific. I feel disrespected. I feel frustrated. I feel scared. Sometimes anger is covering another emotion, like hurt or sadness. Naming your real feeling gives you more control and helps you understand yourself better. Step 4. Reflection. The fourth step is reflection. Ask yourself, why am I angry right now? What happened before this? Am I really reacting to this moment, or is it something bigger? These questions help you look under the surface. Often, anger is connected to stress, past experiences, or deeper fears. Step 5. Choice. Here's where your real power comes in. Choice. Once you understand your anger, you can choose how to respond. Speak calmly. Walk away. Wait until you've cooled down. You are not your anger. You are the one deciding how to handle it. Step 6. Release. Step 6 is release. After the situation is managed, let go of the anger. Holding on, especially silently, can turn anger into bitterness. Talk about it if you can. Write it down in a journal. Meditate, pray, or take a walk. Letting go doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. It means giving yourself peace. Step 7. Practice. Finally, practice. Like any skill, managing anger takes practice. You won't get it perfect every time, and that's okay. The goal isn't perfection. It's progress. Every time you pause instead of shouting, breathe instead of reacting, or reflect instead of exploding, you're training your emotional muscles. Managing anger is a journey, not a destination. Religion, culture, and science all agree. When we control our anger, we create space for wisdom, connection, and peace. So next time you feel that heat rising inside, remember, you're not weak for feeling angry. You are strong if you can stop, breathe, and choose your response. In the next part of this episode, we'll explore how to repair the damage when anger has already hurt someone or something. Because let's face it, we all make mistakes. The good news? Healing is possible, and it often starts with just one honest conversation. What gets in the way of managing anger? Now that we've talked about strategies to manage anger, you might be wondering, if these tools are so simple, why isn't everyone using them? Why do we still lose our temper, shut down, or hold on to anger for days? That's an excellent question. The truth is, managing anger isn't just about knowing what to do. It's also about understanding what gets in the way. Perfectionism. One of the biggest challenges many people face is perfectionism. This is the belief that we always have to get things right, that mistakes are bad, or that feeling angry is somehow wrong. If you've ever thought, I shouldn't feel this way, or why can't I stay calm like other people? You're not alone. Perfectionism can make us feel like we fail every time we get upset. But the reality is, anger is a normal human emotion. Nobody handles it perfectly all the time. Expecting yourself to be calm, cool, and collected 24/7 isn't realistic. In fact, trying to be perfect can make anger worse. Pressure builds inside, and when it becomes too much, it often comes out in ways we don't expect. Self-doubt. Another obstacle is self-doubt. Sometimes we feel like we don't have the right to speak up. Maybe we grew up in a home where expressing emotions was discouraged. Maybe we've been told, directly or indirectly, that being angry means we are difficult or too emotional. So instead of expressing anger in healthy ways, we push it down, pretend everything is okay, and stay quiet. But anger doesn't disappear. It stays inside and can turn into stress, sadness, or even physical pain. Self-doubt makes us question our own feelings. Is this really important? Am I overreacting? This constant questioning makes it harder to trust ourselves and harder to respond in healthy, confident ways. Shame. Then there's shame. Shame is that deep feeling that something is wrong with us because we feel angry. Shame doesn't just say, you did something bad. It tells us you're bad. This feeling can be very strong if you've ever been punished for showing emotion or made fun of for expressing yourself. Shame can make us hide, avoid conversations, or turn anger inward instead of working through it. We get stuck. We feel alone. Sometimes we even start believing that we're not worth the effort of change. Social and cultural pressures. Anger doesn't just live inside us, it's also influenced by social and cultural pressures. In many cultures, anger is seen as negative or dangerous, especially for certain groups of people. Men might be taught that showing sadness is weak, so they express their pain through anger. Women might be told that being angry is aggressive or unattractive, so they stay quiet even when something feels unfair. Different cultures have different expectations around expressing emotion. In some places, it's normal to raise your voice and show strong feelings. In others, people are expected to stay calm and polite no matter what. These messages shape how we respond to anger and how we feel about it in ourselves and others. All of these factors, perfectionism, self-doubt, shame, and cultural pressure, can create strong barriers. They make it harder to manage anger and to live freely, honestly, and fully. The good news is, once we understand these obstacles, we can start to work around them. We can practice self-compassion, learn to trust our emotions, and find ways to express anger in a healthy, safe way. Overcoming roadblocks to anger management. All of the challenges we just talked about, perfectionism, self-doubt, shame, and cultural pressure, make it harder to use the strategies we learned earlier. Even if we want to pause, breathe, or walk away, sometimes something deeper holds us back. So here's a question for you to reflect on. What stops you from dealing with anger differently? Is it fear of being judged? Worry that you'll lose control? Maybe you've never had someone model healthy emotional habits for you. Maybe nobody ever told you it's okay to feel angry and that your feelings are valid. Whatever the reason, it's important to remember this. Learning to manage anger is not about becoming perfect. It's about becoming aware. It's about being kind to yourself, even when you don't respond the way you wanted to. This is called self-compassion. The ability to treat yourself with the same care and patience you would give a friend. When you make a mistake, pause and say, "It's okay. I'm learning. I can try again next time." This simple mindset helps break the cycle of shame and silence. Patience is key too. Real change doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to unlearn old habits and build new ones. Some days you'll feel strong and clear. Other days you might fall back into old patterns. That's normal. What matters is that you keep showing up, keep trying, and keep learning. So as we move forward in this journey together, I invite you to look at your own roadblocks gently, honestly, and without blame. Remember, you're not broken. You're human. The very fact that you're even thinking about handling anger more wisely is already a sign of growth. Reflection. Wrapping up today's episode. As we come to the end of today's episode on anger management, let's take a moment to breathe and reflect. We've covered a lot. Anger is human. It's not something to be ashamed of or afraid of. It's a natural emotion, just like joy, sadness, or fear. Understanding anger. Both the quick explosions and the slow, simmering frustration that builds over time. The biology of anger. That fight or flight response that prepares us to defend ourselves. Anger as a teacher. Anger can signal that something needs attention, point to boundaries we need to set, or highlight truths we've been avoiding. Triggers. Everyday things like stress, injustice, frustration, or feeling ignored. And how anger often hides other emotions, like fear or sadness. Costs of unmanaged anger. It can harm relationships, careers, and our health. Saying something in the heat of the moment, something we wish we could take back, is an experience most people know too well. And that's why it's so important to stop, breathe, and respond instead of reacting. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress, step by step. Finally, we reframed anger as a messenger. A shift in mindset and growing our emotional intelligence can help us learn from our anger. It points us toward what needs to change, maybe a boundary we need to set, or a truth we've been avoiding. Wrapping up, reflection and invitation. We've shared practical tools today: breathing techniques, journaling, walking away to cool down, and giving ourselves time before responding. These strategies may seem small, but when used consistently, they can make a big difference over time. We also explored the real obstacles: perfectionism, self-doubt, shame, and the social or cultural messages that make it hard to speak up or stay calm. Learning to manage anger isn't just about controlling outward reactions, it's also about healing what's inside. Here's my personal takeaway, and maybe it will help you too. For a long time, I believed that being angry meant I was failing. But over the years, I've learned that anger often shows up not because I'm weak, but because I care. I care about fairness, being heard, and being respected. When I listen to that deeper message behind my anger, I can grow from it instead of just reacting. Now, I want to invite you to try something simple. After this episode, take 5 or 10 minutes to sit quietly. You don't need music. You don't need a journal. Just breathe and ask yourself, what does my anger usually try to tell me? Or, if you prefer, write about the last time you got really angry. What happened? What were you really feeling? What could you do differently next time? If that feels too big, just start small. Maybe today, the next time you feel annoyed, try taking one deep breath before speaking. That's it. One breath, one pause, one step toward emotional clarity. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I know anger isn't always an easy topic, but I hope this conversation helped you feel a little more understood and a little more in control. Remember, this is a journey. It's okay to take it one day at a time. Be patient with yourself and keep learning. That's how real change happens. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might need it, and don't forget to follow Code Your English for more episodes about personal growth, communication, and building confidence, all while improving your English. Next time, we'll be talking about self-discipline, what it really means, how to build it without burning out, and why it's more about kindness than control. I hope you'll join me. Until then, take care of yourself and remember, progress, not perfection.